Welcome to Audible Interlude, a G.I. Joe podcast. I am your host, Dave West, codename Phantom Troublemaker.
And I am your co-host, Noel Wood, codename Crapshoot.
And I'm your Cobra intern that lost Major Blood's glass eye playing Dark Crystal with the rest of the interns, codename Legion Cub.
And if you have been here waiting for us to start, if you were here on time on the Needless Things YouTube channel, you have the opportunity now to score yourself a free album from our pal Word Burglar. First person to grab that code and go to, oh man, this is not zooming in well. There we go. Okay. Screenshot, do whatever you got to do. Get yourself a copy of Replicable Skills. Obviously, I highly recommend you go grab that vinyl, which is why I have this free download. I already owned the album digitally, so I backed the vinyl, and so now I've got the record and I've got it digitally, and I don't need to redeem this code. So whoever got that, done. And now I've got to put my hand in front of my face to get my camera to focus again. Oh, nope. I'm just going to be Vaseline for the whole rest of the show. Usually
you're like Bigfoot. You're just blurry.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens here. Nope. Nothing's happening. Well, I'm just going to keep plugging along in Blurrovision. Maybe I can show something else in a minute, and we'll get this fixed. Thanks, camera. You're doing a great job. I'm crushing my head. In a little throwback to our last Let's Freaking Go ring, or I guess the one before. Two ago. Crazy. So as I said, this is the Needless Things YouTube channel. Maybe if I throw a little something up on the screen here, our next live stream, put it on your calendar, June the 2nd. That's right. We are already almost halfway through the year. That is insane and wrong, and I hate it. However, there are two great things about June. Can you guys tell me what they are?
Well, I know one is Joe Fest.
You picked the easy one.
We would all differ on what the second one is.
Noel, the pressure's on. It's Yo Joe June.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I remember that once.
Right. It's every year, but there hasn't been a whole lot of happiness or activity or anything else on the toy front lately. Kristian, put it up on the board. Tom Henry with the super chat. Thank you so much. I will remind everybody that everything that comes in through the super chat or any other means goes directly into our production costs for the show, whether it's hosting, whether it's merchandise, whatever the case may be. It all goes back into the show. So we appreciate your support, and we appreciate everybody hanging out in the chat. And if you snagged that Word Burglar album code, let us know. Although possibly everybody already has that album, as well you should. It's one of the older albums. As I said, it's just cool that the vinyl just came out. We also have merchandise available, and we are closing in on your last potential opportunity to get stuff before Joe Fest. We have the Cobra Intern shirt, the AI Pod shirt, the Slickalicious logo shirt available in both full chest and little pocket size chest emblem. And of course, the Audible Interlude Tactical Shovel shirt. It was shockingly popular. Shirt that was, and also you can get most of these designs on other merchandise as well. So check out TeePublic. Go to Audible Interlude Podcast on Instagram. Go to the pinned stories or the if you go to I don't have my link tree set up over there. So go to the pinned stories, go to the TeePublic store, and get yourself some merch. But as always, wait for a sale. So in other, I'm still not, what's going on here? Come on, Hubert, help me out. Hey, look,
there you go.
Hubert did the trick.
Hey,
just like one of the balls they put on a pole for like a heavy CGI movie. Hubert helped it focus. Okay. So first I want to bring up, I mentioned several episodes ago, or possibly 3, 4, I don't know, Audible Interlude flasks were a possibility. If anybody wanted them, you're supposed to shoot us a message. Let me know. The flask is here, and that is what it looks like. Very nice. I love the green. It's a nice bright green, and this is laser etched, and it's thick. I got years ago, I had flasks made for the Big Damn Game Show. Or no, I'm sorry, for the Dirty Dirty Con Game Show, the old version of the game show, for everybody that is part of the show. And like, they're cool, but there's a depth to where it was etched away. Like, this feels much higher quality. As a matter, I've got a Cybertronic Spree flask, well, 2, that aren't quite as, like, they're great, but they're not as well done as this one is. So I'm very impressed with the quality on this. So again, if anybody would be interested in an Audible Interlude flask for pickup at Joe Fest, shoot me a message at Audible Interlude Podcast on Instagram. And another note on messages, we got to send thanks out to RecShip, which seems to be pretty much a weekly occurrence around here. So RecShip sent me a message earlier today about the most recent Needless Things podcast episode, which you can get wherever you get your podcasts. And they will all be published on the Needless Things YouTube channel now, even the audio versions. I got that set up. Now, I will warn you, the content is a little more adult-oriented. The language is a little more frisky. It is not a family-friendly show. But RecShip gave me a little feedback, and I was like, what are you doing, son? Put this in the comments. Don't send me a message that nobody can see. We need that engagement. And it only occurred to me at that point, I was like, well, wait a minute. We should be having this exchange publicly. Like, let's get some comments. Let's get some engagement on the social media, because believe me, we need it. So if you want to, like, send us pet pictures, ask for philosophical advice, stuff like that, shoot us messages. But if you want to talk about things pertaining to episodes, put it in the comments. Go find the episode, because every single one is shared, whether it's on Blue Sky or Instagram. And we'll get in there. We'll talk about it. We'll, as Conan says, we'll chop it up. But let's do it where we're getting engagement and helping the show out. But yeah, anything not show related, shoot us a message, and we'll be with you on that. So there's that. So that was all the follow-up. Oh, one more thing. I'll throw this out there. Tomorrow, right here on the Needless Things YouTube channel, finally reviewing the Mezco 112 Collective Duke. Because, as I've mentioned many times on Needless Things, there was so much stuff coming out at the end of last year. I really had to prioritize, and a lot of the higher dollar figures, like some of the stuff from Super 7 and from Mezco, just got put on the back burner. It was a matter of, I just got to wait until I can fit these into the budget. But fortunately, I had a birthday on the 10th, and my family came through with almost all of the high dollar stuff that had been on my wait list. So I finally got to review this Duke, which I will admit, because usually Mezco 112 collective figures are top of my priority list, but this being Duke, I was like, how many Dukes do I need? How many, like, really? But once I opened it up and got into it, I can't say it's my favorite 112 figure, because I did Firefly, and that was figure of the year. But this Duke is incredible. It's so good. So check out the review tomorrow on the Needless Things YouTube channel. All right, so that's it for follow-up. Believe it or not, that brings us directly into news. All right, first news up. This is something I added at the last minute. This is not in the notes, but it's not really that big a deal either. We are just a couple of weeks away from the mask pre-orders. Loyal subjects already announced the pricing way before we knew the tariff situation. So, and these are, I believe it's supposed to be first week of June. These are going up for pre-order from Big Bad Toy Store. I don't know if it's other retailers or if it's just Big Bad, because I think that's the only one they mentioned.
So the recent articles that I've seen this week, where they've done little mini
Yeah.
reviews, it says Big Bad, and then I believe it's July. Other
Like later,
retailers,
okay, that's right. I remember.
which by
seeing that.
other retailers, I
guess
haven't heard
everybody.
them say that it's just Walmart, but all of the stuff that they're doing currently, like the My Buddy, the Gem, the Rainbow Bright, like it's only Walmart carrying it. So if you miss it on Big Bad,
that's
you
right.
will get an opportunity at Walmart.
That stuff hasn't, which that's not a good backup option. So don't miss it on Big Bad. That's right. That other stuff hasn't been available from other retailers, has it?
But I want to say that the original articles, when they talked about doing these retro lines, that it was a partnership with Walmart. I just, in the months since that first article, I don't see them mentioning Walmart.
Right.
So I'm not
So
sure,
we'll see.
but in the stuff that's been posted, last week, it's still showing the SRP that they had originally announced. So,
but it will still be, well, depending on how the retailers handle it, but Big Bad is still, plus whatever tariffs apply. Like they're putting up that MSRP because they're having to pivot. Like who knows what's going to happen by the time these come in.
Right.
Which more on that later. But anyway, just everybody prepare your wallets. Not that you'll be paying up front, but just be ready. These are coming in hot. Next up, not really a whole lot to report. I received an email to my Phantom Troublemaker account, which is weird because I haven't used that one for any promotion of this or anything. So I'm not sure where this even came from, but it was this image, which there are two other images as well, but this is easily the best one, related to the Snake Eyes game that is coming from Atomic Arcade. This is a close-up of Snake Eyes' bloody sword, and I'm always you know what? I'm going to have to moderate that opinion because I used to get sort of annoyed when G.I. Joe got too bloody or gory because people were trying to make it edgy and adult. But Energon Universe is great, and that's been gory as heck. So I can't have that complaint anymore. So here's Snake Eyes, totally badass bloody sword, so gritty and adult.
I agree with Brett White. It kind of looks like barbecue sauce.
He just cut into some Sweet Baby Ray's.
It could just be oil from a bat because it definitely isn't, red.
Yeah, it's not outright red. Yeah, you know what? Bat oil actually does seem more like it, right? It's brownish, whatever. We'll find out.
Bat oil sounds like something that the 60s Batman would use.
It's what Michael Keaton has to cover his body with before he puts the suit on. Alfred, bring me the bat oil. So anyway, 3-4 years from now, whenever this game actually comes out, I'm sure it'll be neat. But here's the message I received. Hi, Dave. I was like, oh, hi, Dave. I wanted to give you a heads up that Atomic Arcade has provided an update on its social channels on the development of the studio's first game. The team will have more updates on the game when the time is right. Boy, that's vague. Mm-hmm. And then here is the update. We are hard at work on our game centered on Snake Eyes, the legendary ninja commando from G.I. Joe, and we wanted to share a glimpse of the awesome work our team is doing. Here's a peek at our Snake Eyes character model rendered in-engine. So consider this. This is a still shot of an arm. We just saw a full cinematic trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6, which does not come out until next year.
And for our listeners who are like, man, this vaguely sounds familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on it. That's because this game was announced back when Snake Eyes Origins came out.
4 years ago.
So it's been 3 years. Pretty much everybody thought this was dead. This will kind of tie into something we're going to talk about a little later, but it's not dead anymore. But I don't think they've really done much in those 3 years.
Yeah, we don't know how not dead it is. And I will say, like, this looks really cool. However, it is also, like, way over-designed. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Snake Eyes game. I think Rexship has a pretty good point about it.
Yeah, so Rexship also says, don't worry, this game will be $90 on the $500 game consoles, so most people won't be playing it anyways.
Could be. Next up, something that came out of nowhere, but I thought was pretty darn nifty. I always like seeing, other stuff. The Bradford Exchange is releasing, as they do, cold cast bronze sculptures of G.I. Joe characters. This is with their magazine format. This is officially licensed, handcrafted, hand-painted, cold-cast bronze sculptures feature authentic details, hand-applied patinas, and dog tag nameplates. Measures approximately 3.5 inches wide by 8 inches high. So this is a pretty decently sized statue. Oh, here we go. Oh, boy. Maniacal evil reigns, terror rules anew. Behold, the most dangerous man alive is elevated as never before in a lasting monument to chaos and corruption. Now, none other than Cobra Commander himself strikes first in a collection of artisan handcrafted G.I. Joe sculptures, sure to bring back the excitement of childhood adventures. Yes, I often adventured with bronze statues. That was definitely part of my childhood. Now with distinguished adult appeal. Introducing the G.I. Joe Real American Hero Sculpture Collection, available only from the Bradford Exchange. Your officially licensed collection begins with Issue 1, Cobra Commander. Soon your collection continues with Issue 2, Snake Eyes.
Am I the only one that actually is... Cool idea. The whole calling them magazines, it's reminding me of the Eagle Moss stuff that actually came with a magazine. And this, you're just getting a statue.
Oh, I thought these came with a little... They don't come with a little magazine?
I was trying to read, and I didn't see anything in there about it.
Because that's exactly what I thought was it was going to be like the Eagle Moss stuff. But you're right. All it says is a certificate. It doesn't say anything. They're just calling them Issue 1 and Issue 2. That's weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think they look cool. I like the silver details on them.
Mm-hmm.
They're $80. There is no way I'm getting these.
Yeah,
I think they're cool.
We've said this before. They've released lots of Joe stuff that is not really in our wheelhouses, but somebody is going to buy these.
Yeah, for sure.
Keeps the brand out there.
How they have elevated horror. This is elevated collectibles.
That's right.
For grandma and grandpa that are into G.I. Joe to go along with their other bronze animals.
I'll tell you what I'm waiting for is the Bradford Exchange collectible plates. I want some G.I. Joe collectible plates.
When I first pulled up the website and the plates were what came up, I was like, Dave, what? No, they don't have G.I. Joe plates.
Well, no, but they do. Like, I was just kidding. They actually do plates.
Collectible plates. And I was
man.
What did you send us?
Oh, forget all that. You guys, hang on.
Uh-oh.
Hang on. Because forget your G.I. Joe. Forget your Star Trek plates. What we all need are your Pope Leo the 14th collectible coin. Your whole collection. What in the world? You know what? Never mind. We're not going to get into this because I don't want to upset anybody. That's really neat. Good for Pope Leo. Chicago.
Real quick.
Is he? Does that mean CM Punk is no longer the real Second City Saint?
Yep.
Wait.
Reverend Scott Stripling coming in with the education for the three of us. He says that is bronze statue terminology. And much like parents, we wouldn't understand.
I'm not even kidding about the plates, though. If they did some of the, because remember, you'd see the commercials for the, I don't think they were Bradford Exchange, though. But like when we were kids, they had like the Star Trek plates and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If they do G.I. Joe plates, now I'm not paying $80 for them, but I'd pay $40 for a tacky G.I. Joe decorative plate with like a, platinum around the, red, white, and blue around. Oh, let's get on.
When I worked at Sci-Fi World, we sold those and the Star Wars ones. And much like Precious Moment dolls, I'm always surprised at the volume of people that, I mean, those plates were always some of our biggest sellers.
I remember comic book shops would always have those that I guess people traded in. But I remember like Odin's Comics would always have a display of those collector plates, but like Star Trek The Next Generation.
Right.
Apparently, we missed back in 2023, the Bradford Exchange did G.I. Joe versus Cobra illuminated sculptural wall clocks.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've just found something on His Tank from September of 2023.
We've got to cast a wider net for this stuff.
Yeah. Look for the follow-up.
Not the first time that G.I. Joe has been a Bradford Exchange product, but yeah.
Save that for a future beyond the 80s. We'll take a look at that. All right. So, yeah, look, neat stuff. Like Noel said, anytime we see something that's a little different, that's outside of our range, it's cool because it's just expanding the brand. All right. Oh, okay. I get issue as in it's being issued, not issue as in a comic book, but this is being issued. That makes sense. All right. Next up, I'm very excited about this, and this got no announcement. I didn't see, to my knowledge, Super 7 still hasn't announced this themselves.
I got a text about it from their mass.
Yeah,
maybe I did.
I got one too, but I have it on my spam trap Google Voice number that I just get random things on. So I was like, oh, I'm getting lots of stuff about the little mummy lately.
But I haven't seen it on their socials or anything. So this is The Art of Super 7. Comes out July 22nd. Science fiction, giant monsters, comic books, punk rock, skateboarding, robots, and rebellion. These 7 elements form the manifesto of pop culture knowledge, graphics, aesthetics, and DIY energy that is Super 7. Join us as we explore each of these obsessions through the creative offerings of one of our premier design houses of lifestyle-oriented collectibles, toys, and apparel. The Art of Super 7 explores the art, design, and packaging of official product collections that include G.I. Joe. Interesting that G.I. Joe is up front. I've noticed that in a couple of different press releases lately, that it is a prioritized brand right now.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe, Universal Monsters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, Transformers, and Peanuts, in addition to music legends, Motorhead, Misfits, Beastie Boys, Ghost, ODB, as well as Super 7's own in-house creations, and many, many more. This oversized 216-page hardcover art book, enclosed in a slipcase, is a celebration of the youthful obsession, nostalgia, and visual innovation of Super 7. So obviously, as a huge fan of Super 7, I am getting this. Very excited about it. Love to add this to my other toy art books.
Hopefully there won't be any 6-fingered Wild Bills in it.
I would actually be a little sad if 6-fingered Wild Bill is not the last.
I think what they should have done is put the back cover on the inside should be a lenticular image of 6-fingered Wild Bill waving his 6-fingered hand. I would love that. See, that's up for pre-order now on Amazon, which I mean, that's probably where you're going to get the best price on it. It's $60, which is, I mean, pretty much par for the course for a tome like this. So check it out. I'll be doing a review on the Needless Things YouTube channel whenever I get my copy.
It's funny because we talked about it before. G.I. Joe is like a late addition to Super 7's products. I mean, it was like 2021, I think, was when they started doing Reaction. And then the Ultimates around the same time. But I mean, they've probably put out more G.I. Joe toys than they have any other of their
100%.
licenses.
Well, that was from the start. That was one of Brian Flynn's one of the things he wanted to do.
G.I. Joe has been their most popular reaction. Like, if you count the Army Builders, which they didn't label as waves, they have put out more G.I. Joe reactions than any other wave. But when it comes to the Ultimates, Thundercats is still their most successful. I think, though, that if Reaction Plus had not come along, G.I. Joe was in it for the long haul.
Well, and if they hadn't offered the Deke wave and it just failed so spectacularly, I think that hurt the Joe Ultimates as well. I mean, certainly contributed to them deciding to give it a rest. And I was funny. I was just looking at these earlier today when I got home. My Ultimates are all up there. It's such a great collection. And I really, even though I'm happy with Reaction Plus, the Ultimates really are some of my favorite Joe figures ever made. They just look so good together, and they look like the subject matter. Like, they're great.
Right.
I agree.
Justice for Deke, and if I just want to throw it out there, Audible Interlude is part of a Deke revolution.
That's right.
We want to make everyone know how good Deke is and have some Deke in their life.
Well, hit us up.
A Deke-tatorship.
I like it. Hit us up at Joe Fest. I will have plenty more I Heart Deke buttons available. Those will just be little giveaways. All right, next up, a little shipping news. Retro Cardback Dr. Mindbender. Mine should be here tomorrow. Rock and Roll should be here Wednesday. But the Viper, as of yet, has not moved up from June 9th, which, granted, June 9th isn't really that far away at this point. And then all three of them are showing May 26th to 27th on Pulse. So that's next week. So if Amazon doesn't get those Vipers out, then Pulse will first.
If anybody's curious about the Vipers, I saw on Instagram today our buddy Rex Ship has his already.
He just posted it in the comments. Look at that.
Black Magic.
So, yeah.
And they look good.
Coming in.
As much as I was
I skipped that whole wave. I hope I don't get FOMO when I start seeing people's pictures, but just didn't think that I needed that right now.
I'm the Mindbender. It just makes me mad because really the only reason I'm getting it is the silver Cobra emblem on the cape. And the hope that it won't be stained. The Rock and Roll, I have seen some pictures because those have been arriving to people too. I really like it. And if you notice, he's got the brown eyebrows like the original figure had. And to me, it gives a really different look. I dig it. And then the Viper, we'll see once I get it in hand. I believe it looks like I want my Viper to look.
Well, I said when we first saw those pictures, I was like, if I find these in the wild, if I'm able to pick these up, I may wind up just buying a few of these new Vipers and then just getting rid of my old Vipers.
If that's the case, you may as well say I'm not going to get it.
Well, yeah.
Well,
that was before we knew what the distribution was probably going to be like for the rest of this year.
Joe Fest.
Well, you'll probably see them at Walmart because I've seen all of the, since they relaunched Retro as non-Walmart exclusive, I've seen all of them at Walmart. Matter of fact, some of them are still sitting at Walmart's.
I see them at.
So,
I mean, I've seen them at Target a lot too.
I have seen them at Target, but they seem much more prevalent around here at Walmart. So, I mean, you may see them, but at the same time, Vipers are troop builders, so people are just going to buy them. Whereas you'll probably see 6 rock and rolls and mindbenders on pegs for months. But anyway, it's exciting. New Joe product coming in, and I'll be reviewing all of that on the Needless Things YouTube channel as soon as I possibly can. And you got to think Heavy Duty isn't far behind.
Yeah, it seems like forever that we've been waiting for him.
So show of hands, I'm going to include the chat in this. Who backed the G.I. Joe field guides? Chat, if you want to chip in as well, let us know if you backed them. If you did back them, you know that Carson has been sending updates out at a rate of roughly every 5 minutes. I think I have 37 updates from the last day.
Well, he also sends them out for the Art of G.I. Joe compendium still, even though we've had it for like a year and a half.
Well, and Carson at 3D Joe's. So you're getting them in triplicate, which kind of seems appropriate for a government military themed pursuit. So anyway, let me figure out which one of these is the final email. I didn't want to copy it over.
I got I have the one up right now, which is we've collected your pledge one from the 18th, which was, I guess, yesterday. That was last night.
Yeah. It ended early yesterday evening, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they've unlocked. I'm looking for the last unlock one. Good Lord, there's so many things in here. We're in the home stretch. How about stretch goals? So 7, 8, 7 is unlocked. I don't think we've even got a final count of what was unlocked.
Well, all I know is that the goal of $36,000 was a cakewalk. 239,670 was what was pledged as of the time that I got that email last night.
And as you're looking at that, Mini Pete is chiming in with anything worth doing is worth doing in triplicate. And now I can smell that carbon paper because that's how old I am.
But
I remember the knuckle busters for the credit card readers.
But do you have the goldenrod?
Look, what I do when this show is over is just none of your all's business without a subscription.
So the campaign finished at $243,085 pledged of the. Oh wait, what just happened? It just went up.
Well, it's like when I looked at the website, it was a higher number than what was in my email. So I guess they're still.
Oh, there was another email about continuing. I don't know, whatever. It's insane. It's went nuts. 1,900 backers. Unlocked like everything, because I think the last stretch goal that went up was 11, and that was for what, $200,000, I believe. Let's see, where updates. New late pledges program. Thank you. We're in the home stretch. Here we go. Stretch goal. Okay, stretch goal 11. Unlocked at $210,000. Stretch goal 12 unlocked at $220,000. Clamshell unlocks at $230,000. So everything unlocked. Well, wait, maybe the bullseye varnish. One additional stretch goal we're considering is called bullseye varnish. We use this process on the first 2 3D Joe's posters. Figures are glossy while the rest of the poster is matte. Oh, that's cool. I love that effect. So we'll see if that happens. I would imagine it will, because this thing just blew the doors off the freaking Joe barn.
So Rexship also chimed in, and I thought this was an interesting point for something to look at for a future episode. But is the only unsuccessful Joe-related Kickstarter the Super 7 one? Off the top of my head, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember because they did several of those creating G.I. Joe ones, and I think some of those were done as Kickstarters, but I think they were also just being sold as regular retail. The ones that Dan Klingensmith was doing.
Mm-hmm. But Rexship, I think that's something worth doing a deeper dive in, maybe after a couple of polls, because I feel like if they had done that Kickstarter at the end of last year, like Christmas time, beginning of this year, I'm now thinking it would have gone. Even though it was expensive, people know that there's a whole O-ring line.
Right. I think one of the things we said this with the Sky Striker too, is because the Sky Striker didn't hit all of the goals.
Right.
And we said if there had been a year of product and to establish that, yes, we're committed to this, and then you do the Kickstarter, I think the Sky Striker would have funded all the way. And I think if we'd had Reaction Plus for, at least 6 months or so prior to the mothership, I think it might have been a different story. I'm not going to say it definitely would have, because that thing was still very expensive and huge, but it would have been more successful than it was.
Yeah.
Because we need to know that the company has skin in the game. That's something I've talked about a lot on Needless Things, is it's so difficult to get invested in a new toy line because nowadays the companies just drop them left and right. Like, look at Playmate's last attempt at Star Trek. I was so excited about that because I thought we're finally going to get the Wrath of Khan crew. And then they released like because they probably did about 12 figures. And then that was it. They were like, never mind. I mean, it's just, you need to know that the company is committed to delivering a full and satisfying line of product. And that investment in finance and in size was just too much to ask without the certainty that we were going to have other product to go with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, in this back, just following, just a couple months ago that the Retro Toy Quest G.I. Joe book got funded and also got just completely blew that original goal out of the way. So, there's definitely a market for this stuff, and it's awesome that these are some great creators who are putting this stuff out. So I'm very happy for both Carson and Wayne.
So before we move on, one more thing I want to mention. Here we go. That I thought is really special, a really cool thing. Carson's next project, introducing a real American hero, Brigadier General Theodore C. Metaxas. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's a really good read, but it's a lot, and we're not here to just read document after document. But this is from Carson. He says, "Believe it or not, I'm not the only archivist in the family. Since I was a kid, my grandfather and father have maintained extensive personal libraries. They were both lifers in the U.S. Army with insatiable appetites for military history. My grandfather passed his library down to my father, and my father has since undertaken a Herculean task, presenting my grandfather's 50 years of service in book form. I'm incredibly proud of his effort and the fact he's secured a publisher to bring my grandfather's story to the masses." So this is not a Kickstarter. This is just an announcement that, it is a Kickstarter, but this is happening. The Kickstarter is not raising funds to pay for the publication of the book. It's raising money for the photo albums and USB drives and helping to determine the right volume to order to meet demand. So this is something that creators will often do, where they'll sort of use Kickstarter to develop a metric of how to go about the project. So this project is happening regardless, but you can be a part of it early on and help basically with the input and the feedback by checking out the Kickstarter. We all know how to Google things. It's being presented by 3D Joe's. It's Ride to the Sound of the Guns. And it's already at $1,800 of the $5,000 goal. Looks awesome, and I highly recommend everybody check it out. Just check out the 3D Joe's Kickstarter, and that'll take you to this new project. Looks pretty awesome. So if you're interested in real-world military history, I would say this is just as much a must-have as any of the Joe volumes that have come out. Whew. So it's a decent little chunk of news. And now, unfortunately, I think we all know what's next. Tariff Watch 2025. So really not a lot to talk about, which is kind of a refreshing change. It was announced not this past Sunday, but the Sunday prior to that there will be a 90-day suspension on the tariffs on China. Well,
the 145%.
Right.
For China. But we're still at 30.
We're still at 30, which is a lot. Well, and it's look, it's not a tariff on China, it's a tariff on American consumers. Like, let's get that correct. So anyway, it's sort of better news. Like, hey, we're not going to slowly melt your feet off with acid. Instead, we're going to, just burn them a little bit at a time with match heads. That was a bad analogy. Let's move on to Kristian. Has some information directly related to Hasbro.
Yes. So, Cybertron.com, which is a great Transformers news website, posted a link to a transcript. On May 14th, Hasbro presented at the 53rd annual, get ready, JP Morgan Global Technology Media and Communications Conference.
Oh, boy.
Gina Getter, the CFO and COO of Hasbro, was the guest speaker. And so this happened after the 30% announcement. So she was able to speak to that. Some interesting stuff. A lot of the same information that we had from the shareholders call, but some things that stuck out. We have been saying for a while now about how they're not going to overproduce like they did during COVID times. And she flat out said they do not want inventory sitting on the shelves. They want their product to sell out at Hasbro. They want it to sell out at the stores. They have already reduced their SKU count, which is like the numbers assigned to products, like individual products. So, like retro Lady J would have a different SKU number than classified Lady J.
Right.
But they have already reduced their SKU count by nearly 80%. That was a huge eye-opener for me as to why I feel
crazy.
Like I am not seeing, and it's not just G.I. Joe. I mean, it's Hasbro across the board, but I feel like every time I walk into Target, at least the one here by me, there is no G.I. Joe product on the shelf, and the same two Black Series Darth Vader figures just sitting there. Now, one of the things that they started looking at when the tariffs were at the 145% level, that they're still toying with, and it's one of the things that we had heard rumors of, is looking at demographics as to what channels and markets to sell in.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are taking a serious look at, is the cost infrastructure to produce and ship product worth what your clientele are willing to pay?
Right.
She used Marvel Legends as an example. We're a G.I. Joe podcast, though, and it's not like us to go on tangents.
No, we don't do that.
I'm going to use G.I. Joe as an example. Let's say the basic classified gets raised to $30 and they realize, we have reached the breaking point.
Right.
Because the product isn't moving off of the shelves. So now they look at, do we stop producing it altogether? Because she flat out said there is product that they are going to do that with. do they switch to a direct to consumer format, meaning fan channels, HasLab, but not high ticket HasLab, more like you can pre-order an entire wave from Hasbro Pulse, but you can't pre-order individual figures. Or, and this was the big one for me, one of the things they were looking at was just not offering certain products in the United States and only selling them overseas, which for our overseas listeners, that is a huge 180, because for years, there's product that never makes it overseas that only we get. And while I feel like, ooh, that sucks, I also feel like this sense of poetic justice for our overseas fans. Like, oh, now you're going to have to pay our prices on eBay and have it shipped to you. Got it. Now, none of these things necessarily are happening now because of the drop in the tariff. But she said it is all things that are currently on the table.
Sure, they've got to make plans.
So, and she mentions this so many times throughout the article or throughout her speech. And granted, she was there for, this conference was very specifically finance people. So all the talk about, what they owe to shareholders and blah, 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 blah. Like, me as a fan of their product, I don't care. Shareholders can have less if it means that we can have product. But I get that that's not how companies operate.
That's not how America works.
Correct. Like I said, I get it. I will say that after reading the entire transcript, I walked away like, I don't like you, lady, but I'm basing this on just this one little piece of you that I know. But let's see the other thing. Oh, so one of the tangents I did want to go down that I kind of warned the guys about, but not totally, is, let's say that at retail, G.I. Joe Classified cannot move at $30 a pop, but by going the direct to consumer route, there is enough of the fan base that would still be willing to pay that. And it's not the first time G.I. Joe has gone that route.
Right.
So in between Valor versus Venom and the 25th anniversary, there were 2 waves of figures put out that if you were to see these figures loose, you would think that they were just part of Spy Troops and Valor versus Venom.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Collector Club stuff.
No. So this was kind of like the birth of the Collectors Club.
I know what you're talking about.
So sales had diminished enough, and so Hasbro did you can order directly from us, or I believe the thing that I was reading, because I was trying to find out the history about it, that Big Bad, your Entertainment Earths, they carried those figures.
Right.
And that
comic shops, you could order them through previews, but they were pretty much regular retail price.
Yeah.
Which is why I was likening this more to the Collectors Club, because those were
a lot more expensive. Right. Times are totally different. If they were to go this route, absolutely, I would think of it more as the fan club, because there's reuse in the line now. You would see a lot more. Like, it would almost be like Masterverse or Motu Classifieds, where it's like, here's the 20 parts that we use for everybody, and we can afford to make a new head sculpt. And
well, I think with the parts library that we have right now, they could get 2-3 years worth of releases out of that.
Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing it at all. And it just so happens, and this is not my Joe and Tell, but one of the reasons why I was looking into the direct-to-consumer line even before I had read about this was because I had picked up an incredible deal.
Oh, well, hang on.
On eBay.
I've got to get this sorted out. This is so frustrating.
The seller, the photo he had put was of a loose one. And so when this huge, and I still think for the size of this package, the box they sent it in was ridiculous. But when I opened it up and there was a carded figure, I was like, what? So then I got to see on the back all of the other ones that were offered in this line. And then that, of course, sent me down the rabbit hole, because when I saw the loose photos, this is where my Super Sentai looking scrap iron comes from. And I totally thought he was a Valor versus Venom figure, but he's not. It was a direct consumer. So, little tangent, but I just thought it was really interesting that G.I. Joe has been down this path. And then when they circled the wagons and said, okay, what can we do to reinvigorate the line? We got the 25th, and look how long that lasted.
Yeah.
So maybe, it's not all doom and gloom.
Well, the problem is even if it is the direct to consumer, we're probably still going to be looking at a $30 plus price point.
I think the price hikes are the way she was talking. I think the price hikes are happening no matter what.
Right.
I think they're buying some goodwill, and they're not happening immediately. But I think by Christmas time or right after Christmas time, we're going to see the $30 basic figure.
Well, you're only going to be able to have $2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 30. I just look. It's easy for me to take a hard line and say at $30 I'm out, but I'll be honest. It depends on what they're offering.
I will definitely be an even stricter cherry picker than I am now. Oh, there was one other thing that, and I don't know why that reminded me of this, but part of the whole, I would not get along in a conversation with you, woman, is her overabundance of excitement at using AI, not just for graphics and art, which I already personally think is a huge sin, but
it's grotesque is what it is.
In her conversations about demographics and all of that, she kept talking about how they are using AI for that information. They are using AI to eliminate positions. So then you have fewer people with more responsibilities with AI doing part of that. And I do feel like when we start to go that route, I worry about quality control. You'll never be able to convince me that a company can run better with fewer people.
Well, it depends on your definition of better. If you're a stockholder, better means more profitable, and that's all it means. And of course, that is the country that we live in now, where all that matters is the bottom line. All right, well, there's a little update. More Tariff Watch than normal, and yet also weirdly less. I think, well, it was just more informational, I think.
Yeah.
That brings us to the most popular segment of the show, the one where you, the Audible Army, have the opportunity to pitch in and tell us what you want us to talk about. Check out Audible Interlude Podcast on Instagram and on Blue Sky. Every time we're doing a live stream, there will be a post asking for you to sound off with what you want us to talk about. We've got some good stuff this week. So let's get down to business. just like Destro is about to get down to business on that banana. Wreck Ship 85 naturally leading the pack. Which Joe or Cobra would be most likely to go overboard and buy way too much merchandise from Buc-ee's? And I believe this is a reference to my recent travels, my birthday weekend. I went to FrankenCon, as I mentioned. And on the way home, because I needed a nice, clean place to poop, and it was right there in the because, you've got, when you're driving, when you're on a road trip, you have a window of pooping time. Like,
Don't
there's
poop out your window. That's weird.
I feel.
Yeah.
I wish. Actually, what would be great is if I had the Flintstones car with just no bottom in it, just poop right out the bottom of the car. But you've got that. Okay, I'm starting to feel like sometime in the next hour it's going to need to happen. Where's the next rest area? I don't want to go to the freaking BP that looks like it's from Fallout. What are my options? And Buc-ee's happened to be the option in the optimal pooping window. So I went to Buc-ee's, even though I'd been to a Buc-ee's once before and absolutely hated it. Whoa, Kristian just gave a shocked surprise face.
I mean, I don't poop ever. I just reabsorb it.
Kristian has a little window on the side of his torso, and he extracts a clean white cube of matter from it.
Well, we know the drive from Orlando to Atlanta is only supposed to be like 6 hours, and for some reason,
somehow you've always made it 11.
Always managed to turn it into a 12-hour ordeal.
That's a lot of pooping.
But the Buc-ee's is always the highlight of my stop. Where else can you go and get beaver nuggets and see someone dressed in a beaver costume? Like, it is, I guess it's the small town Kentucky in me. Like, it's just white trash.
It's that brisket sandwich beautiful. And those praline, that little pack of pralines they sell. I have to get one every time.
No, my brother, I am not a daredevil. I am not trying a gas station brisket sandwich on a road trip.
You haven't lived.
Well, I don't intend to. So
Yorktown Joe, the chat has chimed in. Yorktown Joe. Well, now we've pivoted into codename skid mark discussions. And Wreck Ship 85 said Audible Interlude.
So anyway, my first experience with Buc-ee's a couple of years ago, I hated it, but the bathrooms made it worthwhile because they're pristine. Like, I feel like you could take your brisket sandwich and eat it off the floor of the bathroom in there. I mean, I wouldn't, but I'm trying to make a point about how clean it is, which is different from any other bathroom you might find on a road trip. So for that reason, I stopped at Buc-ee's and I got some little tiny cookies, chocolate chip cookies, a gigantic soda, like a trough of soda that actually it hooked from one window to the other in my car, and there was just a straw, and I just drank it for the remainder of the journey. But anyway, so I went in and I was in and out pretty fast, but the people in there are just the customers. The workers are fantastic. Customer service is unbelievable, even in the bathroom. But the patrons are just blindly, like, in a daze of a glorious Americana. Like, 5 people almost just walked right into me. Like, they're the worst. And the place itself is if somehow Kid Rock and Larry the Cable Guy had a joint colonoscopy, it would look like the inside of a Buc-ee's.
Wow.
It's just awful. So anyway, went into Buc-ee's, and I think that's where this is coming from. So, which Joe or Cobra would be? Oh, that's right. We have a question. Which Joe or Cobra?
And the chat has been answering. So, whenever you guys are ready.
Which Joe or Cobra would be most likely to go overboard and buy way too much merchandise from Buc-ee's? And I'm going to offend some people, but sorry. But obviously, it's Bazooka because he's an idiot. So what do we got in the chat? What's happening
Well,
in the chat?
Yeah, my answer has been said in the chat because I had one that popped up right away.
Rachel Selena said Chuckles would stock up on those tie-dye T-shirts.
Well, they sell the Roosevelt shirts there, so I have a feeling he would wear some of those.
Brett White says cross country. I
That was
absolutely
Yeah.
that was my answer.
Yeah.
did not see, and I was going with Gung Ho.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he would be gung ho about the brisket sandwich.
I mean, with cross country, it's in his name. He's traveling cross country.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's got to stop and get him that brisket sandwich and some of those beaver nuggets, and go to the jerky bar.
Ugh.
Hey now. Jeff Butler says Buc-ee's is the only parking lot that can hold the mobile command center. So I see Steamroller pulls in to load up on Yojo Cola.
I like it.
And Mark Harkness says Torch,
Okay.
which at my first thought after Gung Ho was the Dreadnoks as a group. But I like that you were able to single it down there.
All right. We got to move on. Believe it or not, there's other things to discuss besides Buc-ee's. Drowning Rabbit from Instagram. What's the crew favorite iteration of their favorite characters in media? Not figure-wise, but comics, TV, movies. So I took this as from your favorite Joe characters, which one has been best represented in the media? That's how I took this. And I'll go ahead and say Firefly in Retaliation.
That's a good one.
I mean, he actually was a character. Like he's, as much as Firefly is my favorite Cobra and one of my favorite Joe figure designs, it's not like he's ever been really deeply explored as a character. Now, I know later in the comics, there's some ninja stuff that I have not gotten to in my read through yet. But he's portrayed very, very well in that movie. I mean, he's one of the main antagonists. So I'm a big fan of that.
That's interesting because what I took it as was specifically, where do you think, like, your favorite character, what media
from the media?
Yeah, made it, like, because I'm cheating. I have two. Because I know everyone is expecting me to talk about Shipwreck. And for me, I think my favorite iteration of Shipwreck is the Sunbow cartoon version.
Well, he's barely in the comic book. He's barely in in the Marvel comic.
But my gods, if the Skybound universe has not made Clutch absolutely right up there with Shipwreck for me now. And so I gotta say, like, Skybound has completely changed how I see all the Joe characters that appear in it, because I even have more respect for Duke, who is a character that I never cared for. But definitely I feel like they took Clutch from just being a background character in previous media, not so much, the first years of the Marvel comics, but I'm just saying later on.
Well, I mean, he's not one of the highest profile personalities.
Yeah, and just catapulted him to being just right underneath Shipwreck for me.
I would say, and I kind of, when I wasn't quite sure how to read this question, I was thinking of like where, like, in which version of the media did kind of like the collection of my favorite characters go, which would probably be the Marvel comics. But specifically, if I'm thinking about like some of my favorite characters and the way they're presented, Stalker in the Marvel comics run, and we just got finished with the Barovia storyline where he is central to that, and it's one of his strongest story arcs, and just his whole relationship with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes in Vietnam, but also the Cobra Commander in Skybound right now is just the best version of Cobra Commander we've encountered yet.
Now, Rachel Salinas also went with Cobra Commander, but she went with Cobra Commander in Renegades.
Yeah,
and
I love that one.
I want to applaud you for that. Yeah, because they took a character design for Cobra Commander that I hated and was expecting to be like the live action movie versions and made him way more interesting. And Jeff Butler said Dusty is my favorite and was well done both in the Sunbow cartoon and the Marvel comics. And yep.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you, Noel. I was leaning more towards movies and cartoons just because I'm thinking of like, yeah, the comic is media, but also it's kind of our Bible of G.I. Joe. But Stalker in the comics is, I mean, overall, that's the best character, I would say.
Reverend Scott Stripling says Joe Colton as portrayed by Bruce Willis.
Yeah,
I agree. I don't know if you're being serious or not, but I 100% agree with that. I loved him in that.
Yeah, like that movie is flawed, but it has some of my favorite Joe moments in it.
Yeah,
I've talked about where they recreate the silent castle scene essentially with all the zip lines, with all the ninjas. It's the best G.I. Joe ninja like appearance I think I've ever seen.
And at the same time, the worst G.I. Joe ninja performance we've ever seen.
Well, yes.
as much as I love him, RZA not the best in the acting department. We need to review that movie as well. We've got to get to reviewing the live action movies because I want to talk a lot about Adrienne Palicki as Lady J as well. She's awesome. All right, got to move on. Silent Interlude from Instagram. Any guesses on when we will see the next Transformers G.I. Joe set? There were credible rumors about Optimus Prime as the Mobat. I would think that given the Energon Universe comics, the time would be ripe to release them. Maybe we could see Hound Vamp with Clutch and Starscream Sky Striker. I know that's way too big, but it would be awesome. So let's address that before we get to the second portion of this. The Mobat, I seem to remember, was all but announced. Like there had been enough rumor confirmation that
we think about like with the Triple T, that was all but announced for like 6 months before we got the announcement.
Yeah,
and Slaughter was the one that spilled it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if anything next month, if not next month, then they've either canceled it or are sitting on it until the tariff disaster becomes more clear.
Well, and I'm curious about what the price tag would be on that because that's the biggest vehicle that we've seen thus far. And the last one was what 100 was 100 for, was it Soundwave the last one that came out? Yeah. And that was 100 with 2 figures. So we're probably looking at the 120 range at this point, minimum, I would say.
Which, I mean, I'm okay. I mean, it's Optimus Prime. As far as I'm concerned, that's a premium character. And also, don't forget, now, granted, this is not a crossover because these don't interact, but it is an item that we know is coming. What was it? A Comic-Con exclusive?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's on the way. So maybe Yojo June, but maybe that's another thing we got to remember. The Transformer crossovers are technically Transformers items. They're not G.I. Joe items.
Well, they mentioned a possible Sky Striker Starscream. Of course, you're going to keep everything on the good side. The Sky Striker would be Jetfire / Skyfire. It wouldn't be Starscream. Starscream would have to be, some sort of Decepticon vehicle or some sort of Cobra vehicle. Yeah,
because we're not specifically, because in the Energon universe, he kind of had his regular jet form, but for the purposes of this, he would need to be, a Rattler or something.
Mark Harkness again. I want to see Warpath hiding out in a tank graveyard until CoverGirl tows him home, deciding she can fix this one. Okay, So the
So you
reason
want
why
Bumblebee, but with Warpath?
no,
I agree.
no,
Let's do it.
no. I wasn't even thinking of the live action movies. In the original, like first 12 issues of the Marvel Comics run, because the Marvel Comics actually used skids a lot.
Yes.
And there is
He
a
had a girlfriend.
storyline of him and a human lady falling in love. So the idea of Warpath being some kind of jerk transformer and CoverGirl is like, but Dad, I love him. I can fix him. I'm there.
There's still a panel from that comic with Skids and his lovely lady friend where she is bent over washing him, and I still have that picture stuck in my head 40 years later. It was a little bit of an awakening of like 12-year-old me.
About cars that turn into robots.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Of course. So to the second part of this question. Oh, and yes, I think Hound is the vamp. I mean, we've been talking about that from the start.
Yeah, it seems like such a no-brainer that and they've tooled a stinger recently, so you know that they can do that, fairly easily at this point. So
for the second part of this, also, I think Kristian said he auditioned for a theater program at Northern Kentucky University. My dad actually worked there for a year in like 87 to 88. I remember going and looking at houses to move there, but it didn't pan out. Small world.
Nice. Yeah, I went there 92 to 94. So
Jason's Joes from Instagram. They're making another live action G.I. Joe movie, and you have been tasked with choosing the characters. Sorry, I got distracted by something in my notes. I thought I missed something. Choosing the characters for the Joe team. Choose 6 characters. Only stipulation, they cannot have been in a Joe live action movie before. Here's mine. All right, chat. Get on this. We want to see yours as well. So I will repeat it real quick. They're making another live action movie. Choose the 6 Joe characters, but they can't have already been in a live action movie. Here's mine. Stalker for team leader. Shipwreck in Rocket Raccoon role as Smart Alec comic relief. Bomb Strike with her brother Blackout being one of the main antagonists. Rock and Roll. Sci-Fi. In addition to lasers, he's handling comms and tech. And Wild Bill. I like it. Interesting, different team. Noel, did you have an opportunity to take a look at this one?
Yep.
What you got?
So for mine, and I didn't really put them in like their specific roles, but really for leadership, I was torn. So I went with both of the Rangers. You got to have Stalker and you got to have Beachhead in there because we haven't seen either of them in the live action. But this is an infiltration team we're going to need. So we're going to have Low Light as one of our snipers. Helix, because she's also an excellent marksman. Chuckles to go undercover, and then Tunnel Rat to do some of that deep infiltration.
Nice. I like it. So I went in a vastly different direction because, of course, my pat answer to this would have been Special Missions Brazil and then add a Joe to it, another 86 Joe, probably Lifeline. But, oh, gosh, I want a Special Missions Brazil Lifeline. That would be cool. Anyway,
I'm going to throw a couple of the chat ones up before I tell you all mine.
Yeah.
So Brett White, his team would be Flint, Lady J, Scarlet, Roadblock, Shipwreck, Jinx, because none of those characters were in the movies.
Come on. That's Brett White. By the way, everybody
Brett.
Everybody check out popheist.com. Bending the rules.
Reverend Scott Stripling says you can't not have Snake Eyes.
That's probably accurate.
You want to bet?
But I can not have Snake Eyes.
He's been in all the live action movies, so he is disqualified. And by the way, that Special Missions Brazil was not my list. I went in a different direction here. So my picks are Dusty, Torpedo, Snow Job, Tunnel Rat, Alpine. Of course, you have to have Bazooka if you've got Alpine. The reason for this is I want to take advantage of the environments of G.I. Joe. I picked a specialist from sort of each different environment, and this is the villain of this live action movie is going to be the games master. He randomly plucks specialists from whatever mission they're currently on and drops them into these scenarios that he's created, and each Joe has to deal with an environment that is not theirs. And then over the course of the movie, they help each other out. So Torpedo ends up in the desert and ends up running into Dusty. They help each other. They find Snowjob in the swamp. They find Alpine in a ton, on and on. And then at the end, they come together to defeat the Games Master. So I wanted to focus on the variety that's available in G.I. Joe and the different specialties and building a story around that.
It's like
and
a
also
G.I. Joe
around
version of surviving the game.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking more Running Man.
Yeah.
But still, the whole hunter be hunted type. I mean, that's almost every movie that's based around like the man is the deadliest prey, like that kind of deal. It's almost always entertaining. And if you throw in all these different environments as well, that's just a fun time.
Mini Pete jumps in with Spearhead and Max, which I will always get behind. Mutt and Junkyard, Spirit and Freedom versus Raptor and whatever that awful name they gave his hawk, General Ledger.
General Ledger. It's a great pun.
Ledger.
Come on.
It is a good pun. Nagahide and Boar and Road Pig and Pibble.
Are you sure you don't want Nagahide and Macaque?
Yeah, I would definitely choose Macaque over the Boar.
Rachel Selena is coming in with Don Moreno, Bomb Strike, Shooter, Sherlock, G.I. Jane, and Helix.
Yeah.
I love that idea. So I went a different route because I was focused on...
I'm shocked.
I know. Not obscure. I was just going with a very specific environment and plot for the movie. And I apologize if any of these characters were background in the other movies, but I'm counting them because they weren't memorable enough to remember. And we'll see if you can think of what my theme here is. So for our team leader, you're going to have Mega Marines Gung Ho. And his team is going to consist of Mega Marines Mirage, Mega Marines Blastoff, Mega Marines Clutch, Star Brigade Rock and Roll, and Robo Joe.
Oh, I love this. You win.
Because we are going the aliens route, because they're going to be fighting our pals, Lobotomax.
Yeah,
the Lunartix Empire.
Yes. Yep. I love it. Fantastic. I was going to make a point about one of your characters, but your concept blew me away so much I forgot what I was going to say.
Every now and then.
No, every time.
Reverend Scott Stripling comes in with Stalker, Tunnel Rat, Outback, Falcon, Hit and Run, and a new female character, ? Like someone created, and I'm not being facetious here. I'm curious, like someone new created specifically for the movie? Is that what you mean? So let us know.
Well, I think he's just saying because Lady J and Scarlet were in the live action movies.
And CoverGirl and Jinx.
Else. Yeah, that's right.
Mini Pete also says Slaughter in the Renegades versus Serpentor and an army of bats.
That would actually be kind of awesome if you did like a 300 style movie.
Oh, yeah.
Slaughter and the Renegades are like entrenched somewhere. And it's just wave after wave of bats.
As long as Sergeant Slaughter dies at the end, just with a bunch of arrows raining down into his chest.
Shut your dirty mouth,
yes,
you communist!
Like the Serpentor's air chariot crashes right on top of him. Yes.
You guys are disgusting.
You said it was 300. I just wanted to make sure I got all the parallels.
Ugh.
Matt Noon popping in with, I love all of this. And I
So
know
do I.
that was said before Noel came up with Sergeant Slaughter being slaughtered, but I'm especially tagging it onto that. So
No, here's how 300 Bats ends with Serpentor and Sergeant Slaughter are engaged in this battle, and Serpentor commands his air chariot to hit Sergeant Slaughter from behind, but Sergeant Slaughter jumps out of the way, and Serpentor gets impaled with his own air chariot.
So like Norman Osborn.
And then Serpentor's son finds out in the sequel that Sergeant Slaughter killed his father. and he puts on some paintball gear and swears vengeance against Sergeant Slaughter.
Sir Paintball. When the chat moves, it so Mark Harkness also says Hawk, Shooter, Rock and Roll, Clutch, Breaker, and Stalker, the dawn of G.I. Joe kind of story. And I really like that too.
Well, we got Breaker,
but
too.
Which version of Hawk?
Yeah, we did get Breaker, but it was not Alvin Alvin Kibbe Breaker.
Well, it was.
It was a different. No, it was the other
Wasn't
one.
It?
Yeah, like his name is.
Oh, does he have a different name? Okay.
Yeah. He's same code name, but different character.
Okay, well then we can go with OG Breaker, and I like that. I still, we've talked about this a lot. And my favorite version of a live-action Joe movie now would be a period piece set in the 80s. To me, that would be the best way to do it.
And usually, I feel like you don't need origin stories for like every single property that's out there. But something like G.I. Joe, I think you could make a very good origin story. Along the lines of the characters that you picked, so I'd see it.
Abel Shaz is
That's right.
name.
That's right. Well, I was just thinking along the lines of they don't always bother to change names when they change nationalities or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes, Richardson said it.
Also from Instagram, Scale Model Joe's commented, personal preferences aside, what would you say are the most surprising omissions so far in the classified line? What are the most major essential products not yet announced? I really only have one answer for this, but we'll start with Kristian.
So I'm going with the very first thing that popped in my head when I read this, and that's
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Right. I'm going with sci-fi. And not because he's like a favorite character of mine or anything, but he was on the website.
Yeah. Well, he was in Blackout.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I have him on my. He's one of mine, along with Sand Scorpion.
Yeah.
Because those two were in that initial press release, but we have not gotten them since.
Yeah, Sci-Fi
I feel
was
like
actually
there were designs, and when the line pivoted, they just kind of didn't pivot with it.
Well, Sand Scorpion wasn't in the game, but Sci-Fi was fully designed, and that was actually my pick as well, because there's nothing to me that's a surprising omission at this point, because with the variety we've seen in the line, we're going to get to everything, barring the disaster that the Clown in Chief has created. But I am genuinely surprised that Sci-Fi has just never materialized.
Yeah.
That's so weird to me.
I went through and just went through like all the 82, 83, 40, basically all the way through like 86 or 87. And excluding like vehicle drivers, almost all of the regular single-carded figures have either come out or been announced, with a few exceptions. And so like that was when I was like, I think, of course, like some of the 82 ones, like, those are going to be a little bit harder just to throw in there, because a lot of them are just like kind of plain, original Joe guys. But Flash is an outstanding one. Like, he's one that really should be in the line.
I almost consider I almost consider Flash announced, though, because we've got his gear.
True.
So, I mean, yeah, he's not announced, but also he's coming.
But like Airtight is the only carded figure, I think, between 83 and 86 that has not yet. Him and Lifeline and Mainframe. Only ones that have not been announced.
Well, you know which of those I demand. Well, Wetsuit. Have they announced Wetsuit?
Oh, I guess they haven't done Wetsuit, no.
Yeah,
so, I mean, there are some things that I consider important, but, I mean, major and essential is difficult to say. What do we got going on in the chat, Kristian?
So Rachel Salinas pumping in with Fang and Skyhawk, and I know Dave is going to disagree with me, but I am genuinely still surprised that we have not had a Skyhawk announcement.
Or a Fang, because we've gotten...
Wait, why would I disagree with you?
Because in my mind, you hate the Skyhawk because it doesn't have windows.
No, I dislike the original Skyhawk, but I love the vehicle design. I've got 3 Skyhawks hanging up here, but they're the later ones that they, they put the 25th ones that they put windscreens in on them. But I do need an original Skyhawk because I had it when I was a kid, and it is an awesome vehicle design. It's just bizarre that the canopy is just open squares. But no, a classified Skyhawk would be awesome.
And Rex Ship says, I believe Sci-Fi is coming shortly in the next wave they announce with Night Viper and 2 other unnamed figures. Are they unnamed, or are you just holding out on us? Did Lenny make you sign an NDA?
I think Rex Ship is Lenny. I think that guy we met at Joe Fest is just an actor that Lenny hired to be Rex Ship, so we wouldn't be in on it.
Yeah.
Or it's Lenny in like a Scooby-Doo style mask.
Rachel Salinas pops in with Ace, which that's a hard one for me because I don't disagree, but I think I'm in the minority where even in the 25th line, figures like him, like Wild Weasel, or even in Classifieds, as much as I love Copperhead, I do find it weird with certain characters to get them, but not their vehicle.
Well,
I thought Copperhead should have been saved for an eventual.
Well, the Water Moccasin seems manageable as a classified release, so that one was odd. But I mean, we went through this. Go back a few episodes, and we went down the run of vehicle drivers and who's essential and who's not.
Well, they're holding off Ace when they do that classified HasLab USS Flag with Sky Striker.
Right.
So
yeah.
And Mini Pete with Wetsuit, which we've all mentioned, and the Devilfish. And I agree. I think the Devilfish is definitely in that price range.
Yeah.
Devilfish would be great, but I do have to want. Well, one, I don't want it to come with Wetsuit. I think it should come with a generic diver. But I do wonder if Hasbro might have been scared off of boats by that Fortnite boat not doing so great. Because they do think that way.
True, but I think that it was them overshooting their shot for the Fortnite crowd. Not, there's plenty of people with disposable income that play Fortnite. 100%. I wouldn't say that they are necessarily running in to buy 6-inch Fortnite figures, because I think once that boat went on clearance, all I see are Joe collectors that bought them and repainted them.
And,
if anything, it should show Hasbro there is an interest in this.
And Hasbro does track that kind of stuff. Like they're in his tank forums, so they do know. So that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, a lot of customs at Joe Fest.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is our last one in from Blue Sky. Cool Stuff Universe. Anyone else experience any QC issues with Super 7's Reaction Plus Joes? I'm getting paint chipping and wear each time I have one of the figures hold their weapon and or accessories. So I actually replied to this one because I just wanted to kind of let him know we'd talk about it. I came home and I looked at my Reaction Plus and kind of moved them around a little bit. I've had no issues and don't see any signs of there being issues. So that's weird to me. Are you using your teeth or perhaps a nail file to switch these weapons and accessories out? I don't know.
My
I
only
have-
problem with them is not being able to hold some of their accessories.
Yeah.
Like the bat can't hold his rifle.
Yeah, it's too a lot of the, and this is unfortunate because this was a case with regular Reaction as well. A lot of the weapons and accessories, some of them fit perfectly and were very clearly designed in concert with the hands. Some of them are just too thin and flat,
Yep.
and don't work very well. And
I've got my bats holding them by the stocks because that's the only way they can keep them in their hands.
As much as I love Super 7, I acknowledge their flaws when I do my reviews, and that is one of the things that seems to be an ongoing challenge with them is accessory fit, and that goes across Ultimates, Reaction Plus. It's just a problem that they have. But to be fair, Hasbro has the same problem with like backpacks. They're not designing the backpacks to contour to the characters. In a lot of cases, it creates not the best look. So, every company has its challenges, but I do agree Super 7 has got some work to do in the accessory design department. Have you guys had any issues with any of your Reaction Plus? Yeah, they seem pretty solid to me. With that, it is time to move on to our final segment, a little something called Joe and Tell, where each of us shares an item here on camera that may have a story or some sentimental value or just something we picked up recently that we want to talk about. I'm going to go first just because it's kind of neat. Well, this is older. As Noel and I have been saying, we both have like weeks worth of stuff saved up. In mine this time, our pal, award-winning Bobby Nash, gave me some stuff at Stellarfest that were from his brother, and he was like, I don't have anything to do with them. I thought I'd give him a good home, and I appreciate that because I will hopefully always be known as a good home for G.I. Joe stuff. And what he had were some of the Spy Troops mission packs. Now, all of the CD-ROMs, because I think these were CD-ROMs and not DVDs, have been removed. And he told me, he was like, I know we watched these, but I don't know why we didn't take the figures out. But I've got Snake Eyes, which is one of the better figures from this line. I've got Cobra Commander, another great design, another very solid figure from this line. And then 3 heavy hitters because Shipwreck, with that great knit cap and sweater, the different Shipwreck design that I think we all like and would like to see in Classified. So those 3 figures that I'm going to open up, I might do it on Instagram or something. I don't know if it'll be a YouTube video, although I am very conscious of the fact that I probably need to start banking stuff because sometime in the next month, I may not be buying a whole lot of new toys anymore. But this is the one that was the most interesting to me because I don't know what this is. I've poked around. I haven't dug deep, but I've poked around a little bit, and I'm just not sure where this came from. What the heck is this little Hiss tank? I cannot place this. Chat, help us out.
Yeah, that's bigger than the little mini ones.
Right. It's and the it's hard to get open. The canopy opens. I swear it opened once.
Yeah, because that's smaller than, because this is the
yeah, that's the Jada toys.
So it's smaller than Jada toys.
Well, and also this was electronic in some way.
Okay.
And the date on it. Oh wait, okay. The date is 2014.
It's the littlest Hiss tank that could, according to Mini Pete.
But what in 2014? Like, what was this size? What was coming out? It's not. There was no Action Fleet type of thing, which is, by the way, my like one GI Joe dream line.
It's on yojo.com.
What is it?
Miniature Cobra Hiss tank, produced by Running Press, released in 2014. 1.5 inches wide, 3.5 inches long, 2.25 tall, opening cockpit, swiveling and elevating cannon, and rolling wheels. Pressing the red button in the gunner station activated lights in the cannons and played a sound effect. Also included was a 56-page booklet. Contains profiles on various G.I. Joe and Cobra characters.
Wait, how do you activate? Oh wait, this isn't a button. How do you activate the lights in the can? Oh wait,
red button in the gunner station. It says.
Oh wait, listen. You probably can't hear that.
Nope.
So it looks like the lights don't work anymore, but the sound still works.
So Yorktown Joe, Brian Hoffman, both of them jumped in with, I think that his tank was sold at bookstores like Books A Million around Christmas time.
The
so
stuff they have up at the register.
It came with a booklet,
yeah,
it all makes sense.
Yeah, that like if you go to Books A Million, up at the register, the cash wrap, they have the impulse items. Oh no!
I like Mark Harkness's answer. This might be the best.
This out of the house.
This might be the best comment all night. He says that's left over from the Cobra Claws episode. Destro's molecular reducer enlarger did re-enlarge it.
Don't bring the molecular reducer enlarger down here. Put it in the carport.
And go back and listen to our episode where we review Cobra Claws. That's one of our early ones, too.
Yeah, it is. It's the first Christmas episode we did. Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, this is great. I would love to see more vehicles in this scale. This is pretty darn close to, like, Action Fleet size. And that's G.I. Joe Action Fleet. I've been talking about it since we started the show. Yeah. I would love to see it. All right. So that was mine. Who's next?
I'll go because... Remember, Noel has the greatest of all.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I want to let the anticipation
calling my shot.
Okay, so the last few weeks at work, I've had quite a few overnight shifts and getting off work at 4 o'clock in the morning and checking eBay. You can find some really crazy deals because not very many people are up at 4 a.m.
When I worked 5 to 5 overnight, I got a lot.
Yeah, so with a minute left in this auction that no one had bid on, with free shipping, by the way.
Nice.
I got the missile gear pack. I think with the cost for shipping, unfortunately, this kind seller paid me to take this because I paid not much more than the original suggested retail, according to yojo.com.
Like $3.
It was a great starting bid. Unfortunately, it was the only bid, but I thank you. Anyway, the reason why I mentioned this is not just because of this, but one of the other things that we've been hearing Hasbro say a lot, that they want to start concentrating more on products that have a retail price of $20 or less. The more I keep reading and hearing, I'm finally picking up on what they're talking about is how magic cards and stuff like that, booster packs for other games are all like $5.99, $8.99, $14.99. They're actually not talking about how can we make Transformers or GI Joe product that is $20 or less. Well, guess what? Stuff like this, if you made a Battle Gear pack with classified weapons and you were selling that for less than $20, I buy it.
There's a market for it.
This made me realize how much is still missing for customizers.
Yeah, Gridiron's been doing stuff like this and making tons of money for so long, and I cannot believe that Hasbro has not dipped their toes into it yet. So
that's my Joe and Tell.
Well, cool.
And if you're an insomniac, check out eBay between the hours of like 2:30 a.m. and 5 a.m. because you will get
2 to 5
crazy cheap deals.
2 to 5
I like that pack has the skis for the Snowcat in the original black, but it's also got like the green versions of all the other missiles, so you can like custom your Snowcat with like the green missiles.
Yeah,
which would be kind of a neat little thing to do if you want to make a little custom.
And I think these little missiles here, I believe on the back it says that these are for the Triple T.
Yeah,
but I think they're going to fit on that claw that I got from the consignment shop that didn't have any missiles. Because yes, this is going to get opened.
I mean, that is a any toy convention you go to, you're probably going to see that mint on card, but it isn't going to be that cheap.
Right.
All right, Noel, it's time to dazzle us.
Yes.
I'm going to have to present for this one because I could not get this in front of the camera tonight, but I'll tell the story real quick first. I've also been collecting things to use for Joe and Tells here recently, and up until about 7 p.m. tonight, I had something that was definitely going to be my Joe and Tell tonight. 2 days before, it was something else because I've just acquired a couple things that I'm going to eventually be using for these segments. But my friend Keith, we know Keith. He's been on the show before. He is, of course, part of the Clown Is Down podcast with Pete.
Currently on hiatus.
Currently on a hiatus, but still a great show if you can check it out. He sent me a message earlier today, and he said, "Hey, I know your birthday's coming up soon. I've missed the last couple of birthday celebrations, so I got something for you this year, and I want to bring it by later today." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I said, "I'm getting off work at 6. Doing the stream at like 7:45, so just any time before that." So he and his wife and their daughter came by around 7 o'clock and brought me something. So I'm going to present here. Let's see. Share. Can I just share a window? Yes, I can just share a window.
Just as a note, so people have an idea of what this man does. I did a review of a Masters Universe Origins, one of the Snake Men figures years ago, and it came with a snake wrench. And he watches the reviews on the channel from time to time. He watched the review, saw how delighted I was by the snake wrench, and made me a snake wrench.
Are you seeing my screen or seeing the thing that I'm sharing on my screen?
No, but I can add it right now.
All right. So you see some yellow. I'm
got you house sighting?
I'm gonna zoom out so you can see.
Oh my gosh.
To my house at 7 o'clock tonight. So Keith is a master wood craftsman.
Yeah.
Keith does so we have our friends have a Christmas party, which went on hiatus for a few years during all the COVID madness. But we always do a white elephant gift swap, and Keith always makes something by hand, and it is the most demanded gift every year at these parties. So he and his wife are hauling this thing out of the back of their truck in my driveway tonight, and my jaw dropped, and I was like, "What in the world?" But it gets better because you can see this right here. This is like a 5-foot tall Adirondack chair, completely handmade. He said it's completely outdoor treated, it's varnished and everything. I still I want to get it in the house because I feel like it's going to get weathered. Georgia weather is terrible, but so that's the front. Here's the back.
Whoa!
Oh, for our listeners.
Oh my gosh!
Not only is it a 5 foot Adirondack chair. Sorry, tongue tied. The armrests. It's the Cobra symbol split in two, so left side, right side, and then the Cobra symbol on the back of the chair, and the back of the chair is actually shaped like the Cobra hood. The back of the chair has 2 Stinger missiles that he has made on it.
Which he was thinking about the costumes I've done, so he knows that I did scrap iron, so that's why he went with the red missiles.
But the key to the whole thing is the legendary "not a step."
Yes. So yes, not a step on the back of it. So and here's a little bit closer image of the not a step and the missiles.
Oh my gosh, this is insane.
And there's another shot of the front. While we were talking about Hasbro, you might have noticed me playing around my phone because his wife posted a couple of pictures of Keith sitting on the chair. And also while it was in transit to my house. So then finally I had to throw that on because I had to go find that picture.
Yes.
As we were talking about
my gosh. Whoa. Noel, this is a family show.
This Transformers issue is legendary.
Good heavens. This is Noel was for the listeners, Noel was referencing earlier a panel from the Transformers comic of
Skids taking a bath.
Yeah, being given a bath. It's like a scene from Red Dead Redemption 2.
It is. So yeah,
he paid the nickel.
So this is my early birthday present from Keith of Clown Is Down. Check out the Clown Is Down archives. Keith and Pete were supposed to deliver this to my house, but apparently Pete got caught up with something, so his wife came along instead to deliver this amazing chair to me. That like I said, it's outside right now, but if I can get it, my idea was like, can I sit in this tonight while I'm
right
streaming? But it might be a little cumbersome in this room, but you know what? It might wind up being in here eventually. So
that's incredible. Wow. Yeah, you were correct.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, I will say one of the greatest Joe and Tells of all time. Excellent. All right, let's see. Oh, look, it put us back sort of where we belong. Got a little Brady Bunch thing going on here. Well, everybody, that is all the show we've got for this week. Please check us out, Audible Interlude Podcast on Instagram and Blue Sky. Our music is by Andy Sanford of electricminnowmusic.com. We will be at Joe Fest June 20th through the 22nd. Screening Troublemaker, my documentary film about my life, Friday at 5 p.m., and then hosting the kickoff panel Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And we are going to have a table in whatever room they're putting the tables in, and we will be talking to people, doing interviews for the show all weekend long. So come check us out. If you would like an Audible Interlude flask to pick up at Joe Fest, hit me up ASAP. We'll figure that out. Noel, why don't you tell us a little bit about The Finest?
The Finest is an international G.I. Joe costuming club, and we raise money for a wonderful organization called Canines for Warriors. There will be Finest representation at Joe Fest, so if you are there, there's going to be some limited edition Finest prints that you can pick up for a small donation and talk some Joe.
Kristian, where can we find that toy photography you do so well?
You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky under the name Legion Cub.
Our next live stream will be right here on the Needless Things YouTube channel on June the 2nd. Until then, yo, Joe.